There we go. What's going on,
Hey
bud?
Chris, how's it going?
I'm good.
Good, good. We're all set, ready to go. We're on
Doing
Instagram, we're on Zoom. We got everything all set up. That's great.
yes. So we are gonna have this recorded
Okay.
for anybody
Looks like
that's
you
watching
froze on
on
your
IG
screen.
Live. Yeah, it's freezing for me too. I can hear you
Hey
though.
Chris, sorry.
There we go.
Oh, there you are. Okay. I hear you
Cool.
now. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened. Yeah.
It's all good. Yeah. So for anybody watching on IG Live, we are recording it on Zoom. Tried to do it last night with Farber. It got messed up, but worked out the kinks. So this is going to be good. But yeah, man, thanks for coming on.
Yeah. Thank you for having me, man. It's been a little while.
Yeah,
When was
for
the last
sure.
time we did something? We did we did like a little mastermind thing. What, like maybe like 5, 6 months ago, or?
Yeah, we had the meetup that you came out to, and then I know
Mhm.
you and me grabbed coffee a little bit after that, maybe like a
Right.
month or so after that.
Right.
But yeah, no, it's been a little while, so good time to catch up a little bit, hear how things have been for you. I'm
Hmm.
sure it's not all good considering what's going on, but we're making
Right.
do as best we can, right?
Sure. 100%.
Yeah. So for anybody watching, just real quick, you want to give them a 1 to 3 minute overview on who you are, what you do, stuff like that.
Sure. My name is John McSherry. I am a residential real estate broker with Douglas Elliman Real Estate. I'm also a residential redeveloper. I fix and flip single family and two family homes throughout Nassau County and Queens. And I also have a wholesale business where we wholesale throughout mostly New Jersey and down south in Florida and some in Georgia as well.
Oh, nice. I didn't realize you guys were doing wholesale stuff down there. That's good.
Yeah, so that's something that we kind of shifted into over the last couple of months.
Hmm.
I was flipping a couple of properties a month, and but doing big numbers. So we're talking like buying anywhere from 300 to 500,000, selling anywhere from 5 to 8. But
Hmm.
the wholesale properties, they move a lot quicker, and it's a lot less profit, but more volume and quicker transactions. So I'm kind of shifting my business that way, but I'm still flipping the bigger deals and just kind of wholesaling the smaller ones. So.
Gotcha. No, it makes sense.
Yeah,
So let's just dive right into it.
sure.
Obviously, it's now April 4th for anybody that's watching later on. We're 4 days into the new month. We're probably 3 weeks into the quote unquote quarantine lockdown, maybe like a solid 2.5.
Right.
Um, how you been? What have you been doing? How's it been impacting you?
Sure. It's been a shift, but really, I just try to keep a positive mindset through all of it. So
Hmm.
it's really been, it's been good. It's been a lot of changes, but, you know, I feel great, but it's just like shifting my business. So it's been a shift from before it was like 50-50, like the residential selling, helping buyers and sellers throughout Manhattan, Nassau County, Queens, and Brooklyn. And then the other half of my business was mostly flipping and then a little wholesaling. But right now it's really like 100% wholesaling because up until like a few days ago, we couldn't show homes.
Yeah.
We couldn't have open houses. We're not allowed to cold call until September as of right now. So there's really absolutely nothing we could do. As of a few days ago, Cuomo put a plan into place where we could actually do some virtual showing. So I'm just starting to look into that, which may be I'm going to buy a 3D camera. We're going to start, photographing everything in 3D, and then
Hmm.
we're going to start conducting virtual showings. So I'm still learning about that process. I haven't done it yet, but that's going to start picking up. I have a bunch of listings coming. I work with a bunch of investors as well as a broker, so they have a bunch of properties that they want to offload. So I'll probably be bringing those to market soon.
Gotcha. So what has it been like? We'll just talk the agent side first, then we'll get into the wholesaling
Sure.
stuff.
Hmm.
Obviously going to be New York City, Long Island kind of specific. What have you been seeing from, the buyer side and the seller side, both on like the end user and the investor side? Because I think you're going to have a lot of different viewpoints from people.
Right. Well, right now it's just been a lot of fear. It's been a lot of nothing as well. Like really, everyone's just been focused on safety first and just their families right now, which I think is important. And I've been
Hmm.
doing the same thing, which we could talk about later. Like I do a lot of social media, so a lot of my social media has been surrounded around entertainment and family as well. But as far as sales, it's really just been keeping in touch with past, current, and future listing clients coming, and just
Hmm.
really being available for them and answering any questions they have and just really helping them keep their expectations. You know, it's it's tough because we don't know when this thing is going to end, but you know, I'm pretty optimistic, just by nature, but we really don't know how long this whole thing is going to go on. So it's really just taking it day by day and just trying to keep everyone's emotions at ease, you know?
Yeah, no, I hear you. It was interesting though. It sounded like you said you have either a number or quite a few of investors that are looking to offload stuff. Is
Mhm.
that is the volume been an increase from what it was before this hit? Has it been the same amount of, people looking to sell, or what's that been like?
Well, I think my amount of clients has really grown and the amount of volume that my clients are doing has grown. I
Okay.
really haven't noticed that much of a difference as far as the amount of distressed assets or, you know, it's really just properties that we've been working on acquiring over the last, couple months that
Mhm.
now we're closing on everything. So now we're going to be
Gotcha.
offloading it. And it just kind of delayed it. I just closed on one of my own flips last week. It was a little
I saw
difficult,
that.
but we could talk
Congrats.
about that later. Thank you so much. I really didn't think it was going to close, so that was a
Mhm.
little difficult. But we're trying to navigate through all the virtual closings now, which is a whole nother thing. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's really about it. Yeah.
Yeah, I know when I first started getting into real estate, and then I started doing the multifamily full time.
Mm,
Closings for multifamily are almost all virtual. Like you don't have to go into an
that's
office and
right.
stuff like
Hmm.
that. And so the first time, I think either my mom or my sister was buying a place and they were talking about going to the closing. And I'm like, what the
Mm,
hell are you talking
right.
about? I was like, because it was
Right.
it was so funny. It
Yeah.
was like I'd
Yeah.
never done a closing on a residential or anything like that. Like when
Mm,
I started as a flipper and failed, I
right.
never experienced a closing, and I'd never experienced
Mm,
one personally either. And it was
okay.
only like a year or so into it, and I was like, what the hell are you talking about? Go to the closing? Like you don't go to a closing; it just
Right.
happens.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was funny, but yeah, I think it's interesting because at this point, I don't know why people even do closings in person or why it's necessary. Because
Right.
with technology now, it's pretty easy to implement.
Sure.
All right, let's talk wholesaling side a little bit.
Hmm.
How has that been for you? Have you seen anything? You said you were just doing wholesaling in Georgia and Florida, or you're doing it up here in the tri-state as well?
Mostly Jersey, Georgia, and Florida, and we're
Okay.
breaking into the Philly market, which I know very well because I used to live there. So it's really just markets that I have boots on the ground. I have people there. It's not that that's always necessary because you could do virtual wholesaling. It is a little difficult unless you really know what you're doing, but I like to have some boots on the ground and people around that can run around, take a look at properties or photograph it before we sell the property. But
No, it's
it's
definitely important.
right. Yeah.
So what have you been seeing and experiencing there? Has anything changed a lot or not really? And if so, what?
Really, it's been just selling them. So we've been locking up a lot of deals, but we've been really suffering with getting the deals sold. The problem is that, especially in Jersey, because we have like 3 deals that we just picked up in Jersey that we're not able to close on. One was supposed to close on April 8th, but it's getting pushed out because a lot of the hard money lenders now are not lending. They're like, well, we're just so again, like it's not that I saw this written, but what I heard in Jersey is they were like on a 30-day hold. My lenders in New York are like, well, we're not doing anything for 2 weeks. So I don't know if
Mhm.
it's like a written law or if it's just like a consensus where hard money lenders are like, we're not going to lend until we just have a better idea of where this virus is going. So that's been the main thing. So I have a lot of deals that just cannot physically close because of the lenders will not lend until things kind of calm down a bit. So that's really been the biggest issue.
Mhm.
Um, but I haven't been noticing like a bigger, like larger amount of deals we're picking up. But we're projecting that we'll be wholesaling about 10 deals a month. We're doing about 5 right now. So, but this month we're probably not going to close anything. Like it just can't happen, you know?
So when are you doing a double close or wholesaling, or you're signing contracts?
Both. So, I also wholesale properties from the auction. So we pick them up at the auction and then usually what we do is we form an LLC and then we sell the LLC. So.
Gotcha. Okay. Because I know you were talking about loan. I wasn't sure if you're saying loans for yourself or loans for other buyers. So like the buyer pool has dried up. I wasn't
Yeah.
really
So
sure.
no. So the good thing is the deals that we have are really good. So the buyers are there. It's just that they can't get the money to get the hard money to buy the
Right.
deal. So we just can't close. And the good thing is the one that we were supposed to close on April 8th, the seller wanted some extra time anyway, so it worked out. But some of those deals may fall apart, and that's just the reality of the business, So
No,
we'll have to see how it goes.
I hear you. I think it's interesting because our property manager down in Jacksonville for all our multifamily properties there, she's an investor as well, and she's born and raised from the area. So after the last, or we'll just say, '08, right? '09, she was buying properties for, 5 a door, 10 a door, 12 a door, whatever it may be. And now things don't sell for less than 40, 50, 60 a door. But the problem was, she said, I couldn't buy these properties because there's no debt available. She's like, so you had to come in and buy these properties all cash, or you'd have to have like a private individual that would take the debt position. And just so it's like, unless you're kind of living through that and experiencing it, it's not always just so easy to pick up properties, because everyone's like, oh, if I want to go buy $1 million property, I only need 20% or 25% or 30, whatever it may be. But that may or may not be the case going forward. Like, we've seen it on our end with the debt, just Fannie and Freddie. I don't know if you saw, but like 3 to 5 weeks ago, as the treasuries were coming way down and the Fed was slashing rates, interest rates on agency loans were coming down on the commercial side too. So obviously, if it's like the treasury's 1% and they want a 2% spread, you would borrow it at 3%, hypothetical, right? Or 1.5, 2.5, you're at 4. So as it went from 1 down to 0.5, the spread would stay the same and it came down. All of a sudden, though, what happened was, as things got way worse, like 2.5 weeks ago, the treasury was still way down, but the spread started increasing. So where you could borrow commercial loans at, I was seeing crazy loans at less than 3%, but those were like super low levered and like very, higher end areas, like A markets, like New York, Brooklyn, Miami, stuff like that. But like, even for our space, people were borrowing money at like low 3%, mid 3%, which is crazy. I haven't seen anything under 4 since I've started, really. And all of a sudden, as that spread started coming up, we're right back to where we were at, low 4, mid 4%. And I don't even know exactly where the debt world is right now. I do know, like, like you said, a ton of people are just kind of waiting on the sidelines, trying to see what's happening, and is multifamily going to get crushed or is it not? How much is it going to get impacted? Is construction going to be allowed? So, are people going to be able to implement, construction and value add plans for these distressed or value add properties? So it's kind of like, if I had to guess, similar to you, a lot of people are just waiting a little bit, a couple weeks, to see how this pandemic kind of progresses. Because everything you hear is, if we stay in quarantine for 2 weeks, the number of cases will flatten and start going down, and they can start to reopen, like they're saying China and South Korea have. Whether you believe that, I know there's a ton of people who don't believe China's fully reopened. That's a whole other story, but I'm not going to get into that. But I think that's why we've seen a lot of capital, both on like the debt and equity investor side, kind of halt a little bit. And I feel like that's just what everything's doing.
Sure. And, that just reminded me that I'm seeing that on my client side as well. Like, I have an investor that's buying something in Queens. It's a sick deal. It's an amazing deal. And he has to close cash. But the problem is we need 1 or 2 other deals to close. So it's like, and now, some attorneys are dragging their feet. Some attorneys don't know how to do a virtual closing. So it's like, and everything has a domino effect, where I may actually invest in the deal with him just to make the deal work, to bring more cash to the table so he could close. And then we'll just work out a different agreement because it's that good of a deal. But that's the reality of it. Like, and he has multiple sources of hard and private money, but everything's locked up right now, where he has to just come up with his own cash just to get it done, And I mean, obviously it's different than the multifamily space, but it's a similar scenario where, like, you just have to be creative.
No, it's hugely important. If all of a sudden, the amount of capital you need to close a deal, doubles, triples, quadruples, not only is that gonna, what's the word I'm looking for? Constrict inventory, right? Because if there's X amount of capital and you could lever it times 4, so it's this big, but now it's only this much, only this much is going to sell. It's not going to be all that much. as well as if I was expecting to make X return because, 2/3 of my property is levered at a fixed interest rate of 4. Well, now if I have to pay all cash, I'm probably not going to want the same deal. I'm probably going to want, a lower price because I want to make more on my all cash deal now. So
Right. I mean, the only good side is that you're going to save on, hard money costs or, in the flipping world. But then you also have to think of like the cost of money, and like now you're holding money, so you're not investing in, you're not leveraging other opportunities, like you said. So do you think that at what point that this will, so my question to you is, at what point do you think this will start affecting multifamily prices? Do you think if this goes out like another month or two, do you think that maybe multifamily acquisition prices may start to come down because now, there's
it's,
not enough money to go around? Or
I mean, if you try to buy a deal tomorrow, the price is down from a month ago,
okay.
almost guaranteed. Unless something's already under contract and they got hard money or something,
Right.
your price isn't going to be nearly the same just because there's now extra risk associated with that deal, right? There's always risk of a recession, right? But when you're in the midst of it, there is significantly more risk because it's happening.
Right.
How big is the risk now is how big does the recession get and how is that priced into the market? Truthfully, I think just there's not going to be a lot of deal flow, if any. I think any deal that sells in the next month and a half is either going to be hugely distressed and like potentially like it's going to be a deal with debt that's not through an agency and a lender that's not forgiving and they don't want to lose their ass and they just want to get out. Or it's going to be a deal that was like already under contract and it got extended. I think other than that, I don't think there's going to be a lot of stuff that sells because I think capital is just going to dry up very quick. I don't even know what the lending world is like. I don't know what type of debt you're going to even get.
Right.
So I think from that standpoint, anything that sells in the next month as this continues, unless like the day the lockdown comes out of effect, but let's say, let's call the country is in a quote unquote lockdown or work from home or self quarantine, whatever you want to call it. I think as this continues, I think it's going to be very little transactions in the multifamily world, or at least significantly less than there was. Afterwards, it's really going to depend how bad it was and what, like I said, what the debt world is like. If it's, you come out of it and it was, only April we were in quarantine lockdown, and then everybody, unemployment went to, let's just say 10%. And then, by the end of May, it went right back to, call it 4%, right? Because it's not going to bounce back to 3 or 3.5.
Right.
If it bounces back that quickly, well, then it's going to be a quick bounce back and it's going to be pretty close to what it was. It's really going to depend how investors and lenders look at those couple months of messed up financials and how do they underwrite it. So, for a lot of multifamily stuff, like for agencies, they call it, like a stabilized deal to get agency. They say 90 and 90. So they want to see 90% occupancy for 90 days. So a lot of times they want to see steady financials for 3 months. So 3 months after things kind of normalize, I think is when we'll see like the multifamily space definitely, be back somewhat on its feet. It's really going to depend on how long this goes out and how long the recovery is, right? Is it a V where it's like, as long as it took to go down, it takes to get back up? Or is it going to be more like, a check mark where it's, double or triple the time to get back close to where we were? So, because multifamily is so dependent on, jobs, population growth, supply and demand, and not just multifamily, it's rentals in general.
Right.
That's like the lifeblood of it. If people have jobs, they pay rent. If they don't, they don't pay rent.
Right.
And that's true of most things, right? Anybody who is selling something, they have to have disposable income to buy something. Rent is just one of the first things you pay, which is why it's considered significantly less risky than retail, office, hotel, Airbnb, or any other type of business that sells something. Like if you look at multiples on any business, they're not anywhere similar to the cap rates you see on multifamily deals because a rental is considered significantly less risky than
Right.
almost any business. I don't want to say
Sure.
any business, but similar size business. So
Sure.
yeah, I think it's really going to depend on how quickly, we see a return back to normal. And that's kind of how we're going to be affected.
So do you guys have a strategy in place? Like, is it really to focus on retaining your current,
Yeah.
tenants and maybe renegotiating and or marketing, or are you guys looking to acquire more if things get a little worse? Like, are you like are you on the offense, or you think it'll be more on the defense to kind of retain and secure the acquisitions you have now?
So, I mean, right now at this point in time, it is, 98%, making sure the stuff we own or acquiring, because
Right.
we do have one deal we're in the process of closing,
Hmm.
does not get shafted, right? Like
Sure.
we want to make sure, capital preservation is the number one game. And I think a lot of
Definitely.
people have forgotten that that's point number one
Has to
of
be.
real estate investing
Hmm.
over the last 2 or 3 years. And I think we're going to see a shift back to that, right? A greater focus on what's
Hmm.
the risk of this property versus
Sure.
just, there's not risk. We're just going to focus on the return. But
Hmm.
like right now, we're just like, hey, capital preservation, let's get through this period. Let's make sure, we minimal impact to ourselves, tenants, investors, lenders,
Hmm.
employees, all the parties involved. And then let's see where we shake out on the other side, and let's see what we can do. Luckily, most of our properties have fairly good liquidity to them. So we have
Hmm.
money in CapEx accounts, operating accounts, reserve accounts, that we
Cool.
can help float the properties. But, almost every lender is going to,
Hmm.
Fannie and Freddie's doing forbearance. A lot of CMBS bridge lenders are going to offer something to work with.
That's true.
You have the different SBA loans and the SPP. I don't even know what they all are, but you have
Mhm.
loans for, payroll and mortgages and insurance and stuff like that.
Wow.
So every day it's like something new is coming out, and we're just trying to, one, apply for everything, and two, just, day by day what's coming out, and, how is the government going to proactively support, the population as individuals,
Mhm.
and as well as, businesses. So,
Sure. Smart.
um, yeah, it's definitely retain as many tenants as possible, keep them paying as much as
Mhm.
possible, putting plans in place for anybody that is negatively affected,
Mhm.
to try and, not lead to an eviction in 3 months' time when it opens back up.
Mhm.
But
Right.
obviously understanding that, we're going to have to work with them,
Mhm.
and then trying to find any new tenants we can to, move people in as possible. But
Wow.
obviously with, you know, everything shut down and on lockdown, we're having to get creative with the same thing. Now all our properties have virtual tours set up, but it's much easier in the multifamily space because a lot of properties already do it. So there's
Right.
companies that just come in, they just pop down a tripod, take the pictures, upload it within a day, and you're good to go.
Wow.
Um,
Awesome.
we're just doing a ton of different things to just try to keep people in, keep them paying if they can, work out things if they can't, and try to get new people in. And then we'll focus more on the acquisition side once we have a better grip on what's happening, and once we can see,
Mhm.
some light at the end of the tunnel. Because right now it's still a little uncertain when and where we're going to come
Right.
out of this thing.
Yeah. Sure. Sure. And something you mentioned was about the banks. And just to jump back into the flipping real quick, that deal that I was talking about originally that I thought was going to close, we actually ran into an issue, and it was similar to something you were talking about, where we were like about to close on a Friday, and Tuesday I hear from the buyer's agent, and she's like, well, the bank actually wants her to put down an extra 10%. And I'm thinking to myself, she put down 40%, right? So
Jeez.
first of all, there is no appraisal contingency, nothing. And she
Mm,
already received her commitment, and we had a clear to close, but there was a miscommunication with the bank. But for like a moment, I was like, I'm either going to have, like, she's either going to have to come up with 85,000 more,
jeez.
or I may have to take a huge hit on this property.
Yeah.
And because basically the bank was like, because of the coronavirus, like, we have an out, and we're going to basically just either she has to come up with 10%, or we're just going to kill the deal.
Yeah.
And it was like luckily everything worked out, but I was really, really concerned, and I was really shocked that a bank could do that. But I guess if they didn't have the clear close and the commitment letter, they could have came back and just killed the entire thing. So
Well, I mean, that's the thing too. It's like, I don't know about for you
mhm.
and, with hard money lenders and in the residential space, but for us, I mean, we're at the mercy of the banks. Even if you have a commitment letter, there's
Mm.
not a lot of recourse to go after them. Yeah, you may get your deposit back and your expenses covered, but
Right.
they decide to walk on you at the 20th hour, the 24th hour. Like,
Hmm.
what are you going to do? Are you going to go fight a lawsuit over, like them not closing?
Right.
So it's like, and even then it's up in the air. It's not a ton of recourse. It's not like, when you're buying a deal, you put down a deposit, and if you walk at the 24th hour, you lose that deposit, which
Right.
hurts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bank doesn't have a
Yeah.
deposit with you. You have a
Right.
deposit with the bank.
Exactly.
So it's
Exactly.
like, it's really tough. And it's something, John talks about all the time, John Cohen in the office.
Hmm.
And he hates it so much. He hates it. He hates banks because of that.
Yeah.
Just that you're at the mercy. So, yeah, it's not always easy when, stuff comes up, and, you got to be creative and flexible and stuff like that to get deals across the finish line.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's kudos to you for getting it done.
Yeah, and that's the same thing that my other hard money lender friends said to me. They're like, even though like, I thought the bank was still gonna, kill the deal.
Mm-hmm.
My friends were like, yeah, like even though like you have the commitment, like if they really want to make a big case out of it, they will kill the deal, and there's really nothing you could do about it. It's like, what are you gonna do? Like go after them, and it's,
Yeah,
it's
that's
really
why.
nothing you could do.
That's
Yeah.
why the goal. That's why the goal is to eventually become the bank, right?
Exactly.
You
That is
want
the
to.
goal, right?
You want to get to a place where
Mhm.
you're happy with 3-4% because you've
Yeah.
got buckets of money, and you don't need to hit double digit returns or anything like that.
Right.
And then you've got the security of control and
Hmm.
all that stuff. So yeah, that's why people hate the banks, and that's why people want to be the banks. So it
Exactly.
sucks, but it's also they're also not participating in the upside either. So
That's true.
I do see both sides, but still, it's just annoying.
Yeah.
Cool. So if you don't mind getting into it, what did you guys end up doing to get that deal to the finish line?
So, I mean, there was just a lot of issues with it. My turn. All right. So I was the owner, the sole owner of the property, and I was also the broker, the sole broker.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was a buyer broker and her buyer. But our attorneys were just like arguing the whole time, and it got so bad to where when I made that post, right, I was, I signed the contract. I was good to go. I left my attorney's office. I went home, got changed, and I was good to go. And then I get a phone call from the buyer's attorney. She's like, John, you're going to have to pick up that contract and bring it to Flushing, Queens. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, we're in the middle of a pandemic. I'm not leaving my house. She's like, your attorney is this and that, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, listen, like,
Jeez.
this deal almost died like 20 times. I'm like, I'll do whatever it takes. I was like, I'll be right there. So I called my attorney. I'm like, I'm coming to pick up that contract. I'm going to drop it off at the buyer's attorney's office, and we're going to close this deal today. There's no other way. And, I just need it done. So I drove to Garden City, picked back up the contract that I signed, drove all the way into Flushing, which it was like the apocalypse. I mean, like it was just like the most insane experience. Like the streets were completely dead except for a few people walking around with masks on. And like it was surreal. It was scary. It was like I was risking my life, but like I was the owner, right? So at that point, as a real estate agent, I was not allowed to do that. But as the owner of the property, I was allowed to do whatever I had to do to sell my own house.
Right.
So I just had to do what I had to do. Like I was pretty much just all wrapped up completely. Brought that contract into the office, and then like even when I get in there, the title closer was like, you owe like another $900 for closing, and your attorney's not getting back to me. I'm like, I don't care. Like, I'll write you a check right now. Like, I'll give you the money. I just want this deal to close. Like, it was like time after time after time. But, I just kept pushing, and eventually it closed. And then the wires hit my account, and it was just so relieved. Because, like, it's like with everything going on and, like, nobody's closing, nothing's happening. I was just so surprised that it worked out in the end. I'm just super grateful. And I know it's a really difficult time for everybody, but like this deal just had to get closed, and the buyer wanted to close. I wanted to close. So it eventually worked out.
Nice, man. That's good. I'm glad it worked out, because I know that was a project that was a long time in the works. So glad to hear it worked out.
It was, yeah. Thank you.
Before we wrap up, just from a personal side, anything you're doing to stay sane, keep safe, anything you're picking up in this meantime, anything that's been interesting?
Sure. Well, mainly, all right. So first I was asked, so I did mention that I work for Douglas Elliman, and the vice president of training asked me to do a mastermind. Originally, it was supposed to be in Brooklyn, and they actually had Tom Ferry, who's like one of the top real estate coaches in the world, was going to be there, and I was going to be on stage with him, and it was going to be this great event. Then this whole thing happened, it got shut down, and he's like, we're going to do it virtually, and it's just going to be some Douglas Elliman events. We're going to do a mastermind. And I was like, great. So they picked a couple agents that they thought were doing some cool things on social media and video, and we did the mastermind. And then I came up with an idea. I'm like, a lot of the agents I'm talking to, it's like, they're feeling uninspired. They're bored. They can't work. So how about if I come up with a way to give them a project to work on? We work together. We start creating content together. And I thought it would be cool to create a 7-day challenge to help agents, start creating videos and just to get out of their shell. And like, while we're home doing nothing, we might as well strengthen those skills and get better at something so that when we come out of this, we can make more money and help more people. Right. Yeah. So I started doing the 7-day challenge. I'm on day 6. It's going great. I'm getting a ton of engagement. A lot of agents are sending me their videos. Every day I have a new guest on, and that guest will tell their story, and then they'll give the viewers a challenge. So tomorrow's day 7. And now I'm like thinking, how do I keep this going? So I'm thinking I'll either do like maybe a quick video each day live, or maybe I'll do a podcast every week. So I'm still trying to figure out exactly how that's going to work. So I may have some questions for you from a technical aspect, but it's been good so far.
Sure thing, man. Any way to help. I'm glad to hear it. I know we kind of had the same thoughts, like, hey, like what can we do and stuff like that. And I was like, why don't I just, hop on 30 minutes, bring someone new on every night. Most people at, 8, 7, 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock at night, depending upon where you are, not going to be doing much, probably just watching Netflix or doing nothing. So hopefully this goes well and people get some value from it. But yeah, man, we're right in the same space. I think this is a great opportunity for people to, either try it for the first time or, dive into it deeper and really get knowledgeable or expand on what they've been doing already. Cause like you said, now it's, we've got so much more time, right? Nobody's got to commute. So even if you commuted 15 minutes each way a day, now you've got an extra half an hour. So it's like, how do you utilize that? So I think that's great, man. I think it's awesome that you're giving back and helping other people.
Thank you. And I think that this is a great project that you're doing. I was like, wow, like a 30-day project. Like, it's great to make that commitment. Like, I thought the 7-day commitment was good, but 30 days is great. And I think it's a selfless act, and I think it's great that you're providing a lot of value for people and giving back. And I look forward to seeing the rest of the shows. I always enjoy talking to you about this. And, we've been talking a while about me getting into multifamily, and we're looking for multifamily deals too. So I'm definitely going to be in touch with you about that so that we could look at them together and hopefully do a deal together soon. So.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah. Once lockdown's done, we'll have to get together in person. I'm definitely going to be setting up as many meetings as I possibly can as soon as I get out in quarantine until I'm sick of people, and I'll be back in self-imposed quarantine.
Exactly.
Awesome, man. Obviously anyone from my end who wants to get in touch with you, they can click on your Instagram, but is there anywhere else people should go check out? Maybe if they want to see the challenge or learn about you as an agent or investor, stuff like that.
Sure. Well, my Instagram is probably the best place right now. You can see every day I post, I shoot a live video and then it goes up in my stories. So you could click on it there or just DM me on Instagram or on Facebook. It's just John Baron McSherry, or just search John McSherry. I have a business page there as well. And that's really it. I'm creating like some YouTube content, but really Facebook and Instagram is best.
Awesome. All right, bud. Thanks so much. This was awesome. For anybody that's watching on IG, didn't catch the whole thing. We are recording on Zoom. I will have it up on my YouTube within a day or two, just depending upon how lazy I get. So be sure to go check it out afterwards. But thanks for watching, everyone. Have a great night.
Thank you, guys. Bye.